Hi friends, today we are going to discuss the life cycle of a very important parasite belonging to the phylum Nematoda, that is Dracunculus medinensis. This uh, uh, parasite you will find in your first year syllabus of BSc. Okay, right. So, life cycle of Dracunculus medinensis. Dracunculus medinensis is commonly known as the guinea worm. So let us get started this PowerPoint presentation. Okay friends, observe the slide. You see how the parasite is coming out of our body, especially by creating small wounds, small what are that called, damage to our skin, small blisters. So it is really looking very shabby to see, but it is a reality. So the name of this parasite is Dracunculus medinensis, commonly called guinea worm, serpent worm. So it is belonging to the phylum Nematoda. So it is a nematode parasite. Let us see the classification. Its class is Animalia. Phylum is Nematoda. So phylum is Nematoda. Class is Chromadoria, and subfamily, superfamily is Dracunculoidea, and family is Dracunculidae, and the genus Dracunculus and the species medinensis. What is its common name? It is called guinea worm. Especially in the local language, that is in Telugu, it is called Nari Purugu. Nari Purugu. Okay. When in the you see in 1970s, 1980s, most of the people in the village areas and in the urban areas are having this parasite hanging down from their body. But the government and international organizations have taken a lot of care to eradicate this very dangerous parasite. So, lot of steps were taken to eradicate this parasite. As a result of that, last case in India was reported in the year 1996. So, after having observed for the next 3 years whether any incidents of this parasite among the people, the doctors and scientists found that there is no such incidents. So, WHO declared India India is the country which is not having this particular disease. India was declared free of guinea worm. So at present, nobody in India is suffering from this particular dracunculiasis or from the parasite that is Dracunculus medinensis. Say, let us see what is its life cycle and how it enters into our body, how it comes out of our body, and what are the different manifestations of the disease, and what are the ways in which it can infect to us, and how many hosts are involved, how complex is its life cycle, and all those details we are going to discuss today now. Let me go to the next slide. Okay friends, see this slide. On left side of the slide you will find the worms, schematic representation or schematic diagram of worms, and this is actual photograph. Okay, so you see the female worm, this is female and this is male. You see the female worm is very long. So of course it is the longest nematode parasite. Longest nematode parasite is Dracunculus medinensis. Female is very long, having 31 inches of length or 80 centimeters of length, very long, but male is very short. You see here there is a scale. Male is only 5 centimeters long, but whereas the female is 80 centimeters long. So friends, you might have observed that for the first time in the phylum Nematoda, we observed the sexual dimorphism. What do you mean by sexual dimorphism? Sexual dimorphism is a characteristic in which the male and females are having different external features. You can easily recognize a male from female and a female from male. In what way? Female is very long, male is very short. Okay, so these are unisexuals. Male and female are separate, and male and female are exhibiting separate characters. Based on that, we can distinguish their sexes very easy. You see on left side a diagram of this is a short worm. This is the male one, and the long worm is said to be the female worm. And what are the anatomical features based on which we can detect the male from female? So male is having a common aperture that is called cloaca at its posterior end. Cloaca, presence of cloaca is a very important distinctive character of male nematodes. All nematodes, male worm is having cloaca. What is cloaca? Cloaca is a combined aperture of anus, the reproductive system, and excretory system. Okay, so whereas in female, you see the female posterior part, the posterior part of the female is having only one aperture, that is anus. Through the anus, indigested materials will be sent outside. So anus is only useful for sending out the indigested material, whereas cloaca is useful for eliminating the indigested waste materials and eliminating excretory materials. Excretion is different from egestion, you know. Excretion means nitrogenous waste material, the urine. Elimination of urine is called excretion, and elimination of feces is called egestion. Whatever is not digested, that food will be eliminated outside, that is egestion. So if we drink water, our body get cleaned, and nitrogenous waste materials which are occurred as a result of metabolism, and these nitrogenous waste materials come out in the form of urine, that is called excretion. Okay, so excretory aperture, and you see what is that, all the indigested materials. For everything there is a common opening, that is cloaca. And in the case of female, anus is separate, gonopore is separate, you see reproductive aperture is separate, and the excretory aperture is separate. So these are the anatomical features. Based on that, we can easily distinguish the male from female. But what is very important distinctive feature in all nematodes, the distinctive feature is male is short, female is long. Okay, so the adult males and females inhabit, that means they live, they take the position in the subcutaneous tissue. Subcutaneous tissue means it is the tissue present just beneath the skin. Okay, so in what parts of our body underneath the skin? In the legs especially, in arms, and in the head region, and almost all in the neck region also. So it is the permanent place of living in human being. These are the permanent places. And it also lives in another host other than human being. You see the slide in the middle, there is a small creature belonging to arthropoda, and this is known as a mesocyclops, a crustacean. And this small crustacean is visible as a very small speck floating on water. Upon careful observation, you can see this floating on water, but under normal circumstances, we don't recognize their presence. So these cyclops, small creatures, are present in water, floating on water or in water, and this is the secondary host of this parasite, Dracunculus medinensis. So friends, Dracunculus medinensis, the guinea worm, is having two hosts to complete its life cycle. The primary host is man, and the secondary host is cyclops. At this juncture, I would like to explain what is a primary host and what is a secondary host by definition. Primary host is that host in which a parasite can complete its life cycle sexually. Secondary host or intermediate host is that host in which the parasite undergoes larval development or asexual development. So based on this, you can understand that Dracunculus completes its life cycle in man, and Dracunculus completes its sexual life cycle in man, whereas asexual life cycle in Cyclops, Mesocyclops. It's a copepod. You see in the body of copepod, you see all these small what is that called, a kind of impressions you are observing here, and these are nothing but the Dracunculus medinensis. Let us concentrate on right side of the slide. This is a human being, and this is called this part of the slide. Let us see. Okay. Now, there are two hosts. One is called human and the other one is called copepod. Okay. So, from human being, the infective stage is larva 1, first larva. Actually, 3 larval stages are there, and first larva, second larva, and third larva. First larva is developed inside the female individual, and it goes out into the water, and where from I will explain the next slides. It goes to the copepod, and in the copepod these larvae develop and molt for 2 times and will become third stage larva, and third stage larva will be infected back to human being. So the parasite completes its life cycle from shifting from human to copepod and copepod to human being. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, the main source of infection, as I mentioned, it is the step wells. The peak season is March to May. So the contact between the open cases means the persons who are having this parasite hanging down from their bodies, and the open cases of guinea worm. Such persons move into the drinking water source and dip their infected part in the water. As a result of that, the parasite immediately releases the first stage larva into drinking water source. So this is the greatest one, or this is the greatest source of infection. If you can contain a person who is having the Dracunculus worm, not allowing him or her to go to the drinking water source, much of the infection can be prevented. Okay, so the diseases are generally limited to tropical areas of our globe, because the water in the tropical areas is always in between 25 degrees to 30 degrees, which is suitable for the development of the parasite. Okay, these are the original photographs of the parasites which we are observing here. Okay, so once the two male and female parasites are living in human being, the gravid female means fully developed female, sexually matured female, gets copulated with the male, and then it goes to the lower part of our body. So it prefers going to the lower part of our body because the lower parts of our body are having more chances of contacting with the drinking water source or water source, so that gradually the female worm goes towards the lower parts of our body, and the male after copulation will die. The male will die after copulation, and the female worm, after going to the lower parts of the body, start penetrating after settling in the subcutaneous tissue just beneath the skin, and start causing some penetration to the skin because it has certain penetration glands. As a result of that, small blisters, small ulcers or wounds start forming in that particular area, and because of itching sensation, the infected person starts scratching on that particular area. Because of scratching, the skin gets damaged and the blisters are formed, and the worm gradually, day by day, the female worm with its posterior part of the body gradually comes outside and exposes outside. Upon contact with water, the female, whenever it comes in contact with water, releases millions of larvae into drinking water source. Okay, and these larvae swim in water for 3 to 6 days, and later they'll select their next destination. The next destination is the intermediate larva, intermediate host. Intermediate host is Cyclops. Okay friends, let us see this slide which will describe the entire life cycle. Okay, let us start from first onwards. So this is the first stage. What happens in the very beginning stage? The human being drinks unfiltered water. Unfiltered, which is not at all a safety water. So whatever water is there, directly he takes from the open wells. This is the real situation in certain African countries. Of course, it is totally, most of the villages in India are now having safety drinking water. Now, a person who starts taking unfiltered water having lot of chances for the entry of third stage larva from Cyclops, because Cyclops is also there in water. So Cyclops enter into, rather the larva, let me call, the Cyclops enter into the digestive system of a person. And the Cyclops, the secondary host, go into the stomach, where because of acid and because of enzymes, the Cyclops will die. When Cyclops dies, all the larvae which are there in the body of Cyclops will come out. They resist the acid and enzymes, and they start penetrating the intestinal wall. So let me say, the larvae are released when the copepods die in the digestive system. The larvae start penetrating the host stomach and intestine wall, and after that they gradually mature. And after maturation, they go for reproduction. So this is the female worm, very, very long, and this is the male, which is very short. So when fertilization occurs between, copulation occurs between male and female, which results in fertilization, and the fertilized female worm gradually descends down towards the lower parts of the body. Once it is there in the peritoneal cavity, that means coelom, from the coelom, it crosses the coelom and goes to the chest muscles. And from the chest muscle, gradually it takes some time for maturation. After the maturation, it takes almost 1 year of time. So after that, the copulation occurs and the male dies. Then female starts migrating towards the posterior part of the body, human body. And after reaching to a suitable place, it starts penetrating the skin from lower side, inner side, and it causes some itching sensation. As a result of that, the small blister or the small wound develops here. Okay, so and the worm gradually exposed outside, the female gradually exposed outside, and as it causes certain itching sensation or it causes some inconvenience, the person who is having suffering from this disease goes to the water source to make this particular area somewhat cool, and for relief he dips the entire area in drinking water source or any other water source. Whenever the female worm comes in contact with water, it releases larvae immediately into water. Okay, larvae released into water from the emerging female worm. The female worm begins to emerge from the skin and starts releasing all the larvae into water source. And these larvae swim there for some time, and it will these larvae select the suitable host, that is Cyclops, and it enter into the Cyclops body. The first stage larvae are consumed by copepod, and these first stage larvae develop inside the copepod and undergoes certain molds, and larva 1 will become larva 2 stage, and larva 2 stage will become larva 3 stage. So second stage, third stage larva are there in Cyclops. Now this Cyclops is having the infective stages of Dracunculus to human being. If any other person drinks the water which is having the Cyclops, then definitely get infected with this one. Let us see this slide. So a person, you see here, a person who is having Dracunculus worm is for his relief, so putting the entire area submerged in water. As a result of that, the larvae get released. So after that, what happens? The larvae are liberated into water. Thousands and thousands of larvae liberated into water. And these larvae start swimming in water and selects the suitable host called Mesocyclops. And the Cyclops, inside the Cyclops, the larvae develop for 2 molds, and the water which is having these Cyclops are taken or consumed by a person. So another person drinks the water containing these water fleas or Cyclops, so that the Cyclops get enter into the digestive system. In the stomach, what happens in the stomach? So in stomach, because of acid, Cyclops will die, but the larvae, what are there inside, will survive and resist that one. Then they go to the intestine. After going into the intestine, they penetrate the intestinal wall and they go to the chest muscles or abdominal muscles, and where from the copulation takes place, and the female gradually comes down, as I mentioned earlier, and it comes in contact with water, and lakhs of millions of larvae are liberated, and the cycle again continues. So it's a very, very The third stage larva get enters into human being because human being takes contaminated water and it settles in certain tissue, and the worm undergoes 3 to 4 months for maturation, and after that the female and male uh, come in contact with one another and copulate and cause fertilization, and after the copulation uterus get filled with larvae 1 fertilization. Because of fertilization the larvae are formed, and then the female migrates to reach the suitable area, uh, that means the lower parts of our body, and causes certain blisters or ulcers or certain wounds. So it is exposed out into the water or into the air with its posterior part, and then starts releasing eggs whenever the area comes in contact with water. So from here, within a few time, so it goes into the cyclops, and there in cyclops it stays for 15 days and it undergoes 2 molds. So the first stage larva, it will become second stage, and then it will become third stage, so that the third stage larva will again be infected to another human being. Okay. So what are the symptoms that we observe in a person who is suffering from this particular dracunculiasis? Intense pain in the path of travel. As the female is traveling, we'll get a lot of pain. Okay, so a lot of fever occurs periodically, nausea, vomiting, and itching sensation in the areas, so insomnia, like that. Such certain symptoms appear. You just concentrate on the left part of the slide. Here a small wound is created, here a blister. You see, from here a worm is coming out. But what is very important, the only thing what we need to do is we have to remove this. How to remove the worm from the wound? So if you put a full force, it will be cut off. So it is very, very dangerous. Once it is cut off, it will never come outside. So that's why it will remain within the body and it causes calcifications in that area, and that is a very dangerous thing. That's why carefully what we have to do is we have to take a small stick or small rod like structure, and we have to coil the entire worm from posterior part, and we have to apply certain small pull force every day, at least 1 inch, like that, or 1 inch or 2 inch. We have to carefully remove this particular parasite from our body. So you might have seen what is that called the symbol of doctors, the symbol of medicine. A symbol of medicine is called rod of Asclepius. A very big rod is there and a snake is coiling around it. Of course, the signal has come from this particular what is that called, this particular practice. Okay, right. So once it entered into our intestine, that means duodenum, it penetrates the wall of duodenum and gradually goes to the chest cavity. So what I would like to show you here is, so this is the time taken by the parasite, and this is the growth of the parasite in length. So when it comes to it lives in our body for 100 days. Within 100 days, so it grows maximum size, and then it gets ready for the sexual maturation. Okay, friends, this is the situation of what's that called dracunculiasis position in the world in the year 2015. You see, those countries which are shaded with the green color have come out of what's that called, this disease. So they are WHO certified that these countries are free of dracunculiasis, and those countries which are shaded with the orange color are fighting with that particular disease, but the new infection is halted there. That means there is no further infection. And those are which are almost all dark orange in color or red in color, they are still having a lot of infections of this disease. Okay. Okay, what are the steps that we have to take to avoid this particular parasite? The very important thing that we need to take is prevention is better than cure, you know. So once the parasite enters into our body, it is very, very difficult to remove the parasite out of our body. We need to apply a rod of Asclepius like that, a small rod, and continuously for 15 days to 20 days, every day, inch by inch, we have to remove. We have to apply certain pressure so that the worm comes outside. It's really a very meticulous job to remove the parasite from our body. Why to take that risk? Prevention is a better option. So prevention is better than cure. So what is the prevention of this disease is actually very easy. We need to contain the people who are having the infection with the Dracunculus medinensis. Already when the worm is exposing out of the body, we need to contain such people not to come in contact with the drinking water source. That is the very, very, very important prevention step that the society has to take place. Okay, so we need to take care of the people who are actually suffering from this parasite. Okay, so the health assistants and certain medical professionals want to remove the parasite from the person who is infected. And education is a very, very important phenomenon, because we need to educate the people. We need to educate the communities where the disease is very much prevalent. We need to educate them not to go towards the source of water and not to contaminate the water. And every person must be educated with the entire life cycle, how it comes into human being and how it goes out of human being. These two are the very, very important processes that we need to explain to every individual who is at risk of dracunculiasis. There is a global eradication program, global guinea worm eradication program, and this program is very actively working in Africa. Very, very actively working in Africa. Of course, in India, it has done very great work to eradicate completely the disease. And in African countries, most of the countries have achieved what is that called a transmission halted stage, like Sudan, Kenya, and many other countries. If you can see, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Mali, and these are still having these diseases. Okay, the very important thing what we need to educate the people is that they have to take only the filtered water. So when all these sophisticated instruments are not there, even cloth filtered water can up to some extent prevent the infection of the disease. That is also a very, very important. And friends, I would like to suggest one more thing, that when human host is not available, what will be the fate of the parasite? When human host is not available, immediately the larva, what you are observing, the first stage larva, the third stage larva, of course, the third stage larva from the cyclops, if main host is not available, they select other reservoir hosts. The reservoir host may be a fish, the reservoir host may be a frog, or sometimes, very rarely, scientists have found that certain blisters of Dracunculus even in dogs also. Okay, dogs also often come in contact with water. So as a result of that, there is much scope of transmission or infection of this disease. That's why we need to take care. So whenever people want to eat fish, the cooking of fish must be perfect. So all such stages, all such precautions we need to take in order to prevent the infection. Drinking of safe water is very, very important thing. And then of course, there are no drugs to kill the particular animal, that means the parasite inside the host. So the only thing is we need to use certain drugs to remove the parasite from our body. So metronidazole, mebendazole, and these are useful only to remove the parasite from our body. Okay, rod of Asclepius, as I have already mentioned, and which is a very, very important, very simple instrument. We need to coil the parasite around that particular rod of Asclepius, or a small rod, and gradually, not all of a sudden we have to pull the parasite. We need to apply our force gradually, and inch by inch every day we need to remove this parasite. So this is about the preventive measures. Prevention is better than cure. Okay, And the parasite has got several adaptations. Nematode parasites have got several adaptations. So in order to survive in the host, the body of this parasite is having a very strong cuticle. As I mentioned earlier in the slides, that once the parasite goes into our digestive system through cyclops, it is tolerant. That means it is capable of tolerating the digestive juices. That is very, very important parasitic adaptations to this worm. And when oxygen is not available, so generally for respiration oxygen is necessary. When oxygen is not available, these worms are able to take anaerobic respiration. In that way they are facultative anaerobes. Facultative anaerobes. So because it has chosen the two hosts for completing its life cycle, so that the life cycle has become very complex, and a complex life cycle is also a very, very important adaptation for the parasites. And the most important adaptation for all parasites is that their reproductive capacity is very, very high. You just observed in certain slides that the female worm lays almost all millions of eggs. So why this large number of eggs or larvae are liberated? Only to improve the chances of infection, improve the chances of continuity of the life cycle. So development of a reproductive system in parasites is a very, very great adaptation. And excretory system is also very well developed. Okay, so prevention is better than cure. So these are the acknowledgements. I have taken all the images from the internet source by searching in these websites, and a lot of websites are there which are providing ample data and accurate data. Especially the medical research journals will provide everything related to human diseases. So I have collected all these images from these websites, downloading from these websites, and these are several references which I have taken into consideration for preparing this PowerPoint presentation. Friends, thank you very much. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you.